probably 20 years ago, I started the art walk. I started the idea about art when the big box stores were going in, and I said, you know, we're going to get lost in this community down here. I was the president of the Business Association of the Boosters, they called it then, and I just said, you know, we need to create an event to bring people here. And so I said, well, what do you think about an art event? I had a few artist friends, and I talked to them and asked them, you know, would they consider coming? And so it started there. And we called it Art Walk. And I had about 10 friends. I grabbed and I said, will you help me with this? This is the deal. And they said, we're with you. One thing I know is that you can have a grand idea, but if you haven't got the people behind you supporting that grand idea, you're left with your grand idea. And we had a community and people who live in this community who cared, who wanted to be a part of it. So it started out as an art walk. It went 2 blocks long. We had it too late. I think we closed at 9 o'clock from 5 to 9. That was too late. In Gresham, everybody's in their jammies at 7. So that's the lesson learned there. But art, you know, is a direct reflection of who we are in our community. The art that comes here, the art that you see on the streets here in this community is a direct reflection of who we are. So it started with the art walk and meeting artist Rip Caswell. I went to him and asked him if he would consider coming, and I was so afraid to go and ask because he's such a famous guy, and he's in Troutdale. And I thought, oh, well, he'd come. And he said, sure. And he even brought some big pieces of art. And it was kind of like, okay, we have it right. We've got Rip here. The art festival just grew from about 1,500 people to about 15,000. And I think in the last few years, there's probably been 20,000 people showed up. I kind of had a heart attack worrying about it, going, oh my gosh, they're coming. What are we going to do? But it put us on the map. It put Gresham on the map. And why the artists show and why they come every year and they'll sign up every time, I call it the Gresham Welcome. What we set up was every artist will get a bottle of water. Every artist will have someone that can come to their booth, give them a bathroom break or something to eat so they can go meet the other artists and whatever. And I just call it the Gresham Welcome. And it put Gresham on the map, and people signed up from a lot of other places to come here. So about 9 years ago, I went to Mayor Bemis and I just said, okay, I'm old, I'm 65, I can't lift another shoe pole, and the event needs to grow. So I said, if you take it on, I'll mentor you through it. And the city took it on, and it's been wonderful ever since, just incredible. Sasha's leading it, and she's just doing a fantastic job. And the art walk, because we got a grant from the William H. Hurt Foundation, we were able to become a 501c3. So the event was called the Art Walk, and our 501c is connected to that. And that's why it's called the Art Festival, not the Art Walk, because we needed to keep that 501c3. And I went back to Mayor Bemis and I said, can you meet with me? I want to see about bringing permanent public art to the community. I asked again a group of people if they would help me. They said yes. And that's where it started. And I went to speak with Heather Soderberg and Cascade Locks. I spoke with Rip and Chad Caswell. And I said, we need public art in our community. The reason for the bronze is a lot of people say, well, why is it bronze? And the reason we did bronze is because it's tactile and it's smooth. And bronze, you want to be touchy-feely, write on it, sit on it, lay on it. It's a tactile, and it lasts for a long time. In fact, it gets better with age. So that's why you see a lot of bronze. There is some metal art that's done up on 3rd and Hood by the Mount Hood College students. They did a couple of pieces of art up there. There's 3 stands up there done by the Mount Hood College students. So that's how it started. I felt it needed to begin in this community because it's a way of people who would never probably walk into a gallery, but they can walk the streets and they can touch the art, and they needed to touch it, feel it, engage in it, and be a part of it. And the art is so protected here by the community. I mean, if anybody's seen hassled any piece of art, I mean, someone in the community, I saw somebody one time yelling at some guy who looked like he was going to take the harness off the dog, Driscoll, who's a guide dog. And he just got out of the car and started yelling at him in the middle of Main Street. Don't you hurt that? Well, it's like the dog was real. When people buy into the community and they start taking ownership of it, the community has taken ownership of the art. And every day you see people coming with their kids, taking pictures of Teddy the bear, or Driscoll the guide dog, or standing by the heron, touching the frogs. The bear that's here is in honor of the teddy bear parade. Driscoll is a guide dog that was trained here in Gresham and ended up with a gentleman in Hood River who passed away. The cute thing about Driscoll, the guide dog, every Christmas there's a wreath around his neck. At Easter, someone brought, well, one year, I think it came from Bocelli's. They brought a bottle of Chianti, they had a plate, and they had a piece of ham, and there was Easter, and I think there was snow. And so they brought that. One time someone put you're in the water and they put one of those things around so kids float, and they wrapped it around Driscoll, like, guide dog, I guess he's I don't know, he's gonna save your life. I don't know what that was about. So they have engaged. When and it's a reflection of who we are. When I was up talking to Heather Soderberg, I said, when I was asking her if she would consider helping us with this art project, she said, I will, in fact, I'm working on this. And what she was working on was a guide dog. And I said, oh my gosh, Heather, they're the fabric of our community. Can we have a guide dog? And she says, you can. And it would be an honor. And both Heather, Rip, and Chad have been so generous in the cost of the bronze. Todd was a unique one. Todd, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Gresham, we call him. That started because a gentleman from KXL called me, Jim Ferretti from KXL calls one day, and he says, is this Judy Hahn? I go, yeah. He goes, well, this is Jim Ferretti from KXL. And I'm thinking, this is Judy Hahn. I thought maybe he had the wrong person or he's got some other person. He goes, no, I heard you're doing something about Todd, Mr. Gresham. And he said, can I talk to him? I gave him the story about Todd. Mayor Bemis came to me to ask me about Todd because he grew up with Todd. He watched over Todd at Gresham High School. And Todd is an autistic. And he is, he's the fabric of the community here too. So when Mayor Bemis asked me about Todd, he said, what do you think? And I said, why not? Why not have a bronze of an ordinary citizen who has made a huge impact on this community? We put bronzes up for dead people, for wealthy people, for movie stars, for basketball players, football players. Why not that? And so Jim Ferretti contacted CBS, Steve Hartman. And he said he was going to do that. I thought, this is Gresham. Well, always be surprised. And all of a sudden I get a phone call from Steve Hartman's office, and I'm still kind of sitting there thinking, is this reality? So they said, yes, Steve Hartman wants to come out and do a feature on this when you unveil it and whatever. And come to find out, Steve Hartman also has an autistic son. And he said, I'd like to know and see what someone with autism, how the functioning and how they do this. And so he came, and we had a parade and everything for Todd. And the interesting thing about community, when you put it out there and you engage the community, Todd would bring me envelopes. They made stickers of Todd, and he'd sell his stickers for, I don't know, $3 or something. And then he'd bring envelopes of money. Todd was paid for by the people in the community. There was no big dollars given to here. Gary Gaska donated some money. And I asked him, do you want your name on the plaque? He said, no, it's from the community, Judy. But it all came from community. Todd would bring money in. He'd have an envelope, sometimes of $50, sometimes $200, sometimes 5 cents. I mean, it was just going on. And he'd hand it to the crew and he'd say, this is for my statue. So when you engage people in the community, like we have funky junk sales. We started them about 7 years ago. We didn't know how we were going to raise money. We didn't have any money. And we have funky junk sales. And funky junk sales, when young people come in or anybody comes in, all the monies raised go to the arts in the community, all of it. So when that young person comes in and buys a toy, or the mom comes in and buys a piece of something, doilies, or it doesn't matter, anything, I say to them, now you are a part of why that art is here, because that's the fact. So now they own and take ownership. There's pride in that. And so that's how really it's just gone. The first thing we did, because we had no money, and I didn't know what to do, so there's these hoops that are bike racks. So there was a car show going on, and Mayor Bemis was over at his place. They had a beer garden or something over there. So I went over and I said, Mayor Bemis, I want to take that bike rack. Can I have that bike rack sitting on the corner? And he goes, what are you going to do with the bike rack, Judy? I go, we're going to make a piece of art out of it, a functional piece of art. It'll be a bike rack, but it'll be art. We need to have something somewhere. So the first piece of art we put on the street was a bike rack. And Carla Peluso adopted it, and it's up in front of Jazzy Bagel. And so that was hers. The first one was a very simple one. And so that's how the bike racks came. It's just like, okay, that's our first piece of art here, a bike rack. And then it just went from there. And now there's a number of bike racks. And the chamber actually, through tourism dollars and bike dollars, gave us some money to have more bike racks. So that's how we've gotten more bike racks. It's through the chamber. Thank you very much, Lynn Snodgrass and the chamber, for those tourism dollars. So that's made a big difference. So that's kind of how it started. And now we're moving towards, we started here because it needed to be a community, it needed to be a walking district, you needed to touch it, feel it. The other thing that we've done is all of the plaques are done in Braille. I was driving home one night, and it's after we installed Driscoll, the guide dog. And I'm driving home and I'm thinking, it's a guide dog, Judy. Guide dogs, that's for blind. They're not going to see it, they need to read it. It needs to be in Braille. So I said to the group, our committee and board, I said, we need to have this in Braille. So it's all in Braille, including the murals that are on the Jazzy Bagel building. They're done in Braille, even though they can't see them. It's an inclusive moment. It's being inclusive in our community. I was sitting in the restaurant the other day doing some paperwork, and I was looking outside, and there was a woman with a cane, with a white cane. She was walking with her arm around somebody, and they were going to all the art. I saw them at the bear, then they went to the ducks, and they came to the heron, and they went to the dog. And while she was standing out here, I went out, and this is a lesson about never being afraid to reach out and ask a question. And I'm not afraid to do that. I'm old, so I'm not afraid to do those things anymore. So I went out and I asked her, I said, can I ask you a question? You're blind and you're feeling the Braille. Did we do it right? Does it read right? Have we got it right? And she said, her name's Mary Ann, my mom's name was Mary Ann. And she said, Judy, you've got it, but what is it? It says blue. What is blue? And it was the biggest aha moment for me. And when I shared this with the group, they went, we didn't think about that. We got the Braille down, but when she said, what is it? So they've got who did it, blah, blah, blah. But they don't have the story. Blue is a heron. So because of her, Teddy, it just says Teddy. Teddy could be anything. We assume it's a bear because that's what it was in regards to. But an ordinary person or an unsighted person doesn't know that. They're just seeing Teddy. Well, it could be Teddy Roosevelt. It could be Teddy anything, right? So I called her and I said, we're going to redo all the plaques. We're going to say what they are. We're going to do it the right way. So it's right for you. And so we're going to redo them. And, but I want her to be a part of it. I want her, who is, if we're going to do Braille, let's have the real thing here. Tell me what it needs to be, and we will redo. We're going to do them all. So I spoke, and everybody says yes, we redo them. So we are going to this in the next 6 months, or when I can get a hold of Mary Ann, to come again. Someone engaged in the community, and you're reaching out to the person. It was such an awakening that just when you think you got it, you're doing so great, right? We're doing so great here. We got it Braille, aren't we smart? Well, you got it half right. But, so we're going to change the plaques and do it right and have it be the correct right. Blue the heron, Teddy the bear, Driscoll, the guide dog. The ducks. Bless this nest, a family of 7 wood ducks. We're going to change it, and we're going to do exactly. But when she said, but what is it? That was it. What is it, Judy? Okay. But now it can move out further. And so that's what we're doing. We're going to move further. We actually commissioned a young man, a Hispanic young man, who did the art that will be going into the Rockwood Market Hall. He just happened to be a young man who painted some graffiti, big graffiti mural on Cheap Charlie's that everybody was so offended by. I wasn't offended by it. It's just art that we don't know. I don't recognize the images, but it doesn't matter. But the detail of it is incredible. Come to find out, this young man he's a designer. He's a graphic designer. And he just started with that because Cheap Charlie's let him do it because he wanted to cover it up so he just didn't have a bunch of tagging going on. That's how I found him to help with the Rockwood Market. So we're going to work we're working towards Rockwood, and right now we got a grant from the city. We call them bird boxes, and it's from the same artist that did the graffiti on the wall, who presented us with all these electrical boxes. That's all I see in my dreams now, are electrical boxes that are all tagged or whatever. People just tag them and whatever they put on them. And he presented our group, a graffiti artist, with a bird. Like, he had a meadowlark, but we're going to do birds that are in our communities. He created a bird art on the box. We presented this as an educational tool that will go by schools, by bus stops, by places where it may be an educational tool. Then they can go to our website and they can find out where all the other boxes are. And it's a way to educate and have art that's functional, educational. It shows youth opportunities. I mean, we could be doing art down Johnson Creek with the critters in the creek. I mean, we could have beavers and newts and all kinds of things going on. And so it's going to go from there. So we're really excited. So that's what we're doing. That's who we are. And that's my passion. I draw stick people. I still draw stick people. So that's why maybe I love and appreciate the art so much, because I'm so in awe of what they can do, because I'm still a stick person. And I think also because we look at that art and we think, well, it's like an ice skater, and you think, well, they just did that, in a couple of classes they took. No, they've been doing this all their life. And artists have been studying this all the time, and they give away a lot of free things. And so it's acknowledging new and emerging artists of diversity. Right now we're working on one of our goals, besides the bird boxes and some other projects for the art, for the parks, is putting together a roster. We talked to the Native American group over here. Stephen's in touch with them because we're looking for a Native American artist to do a mural of Native American. We haven't quite got there yet, but we're looking, and that is a goal. There's a lot of blank walls here that can have murals, and we'll pay for it. If the business will let us paint the mural, we will pay for it. GoPal will do that. It's an educational tool, and it's representing who was here before us. So we've got 57 languages spoken here. There's got to be an artist in all of those languages, I'm sure. So not only the diversity, but all people. But when we realized there was nobody to reach out to, no one had a name, that's a mission we need to be on. So that's where we are now. Gresham is it's a welcome community. It's a big city with a small town heart. That's what it is. Gresham is that big city, a lot of people, but it still has the heart of a small community, and they still care about a lot. And they're starting to really voice it, which is a good thing, And so a big community with a small town heart. And I said to Mayor Bemis when he was the mayor, I said, Portland is weird as they want to be weird. Gresham is real. That's what I say.